We are very excited for this next portion, which is with Dr. Alison Resnick, who is a dear friend of early math and a co-author of Learning Together, and her collaboration in this work is pivotal. So without further ado.
Okay, it's really, really exciting to be here and see you all. This is always a highlight of my year. This is what we're going to think about together. And I titled it this. This is actually something my principal, who's one of the authors of the book too, used to say all the time. So I would want to just start maybe by thinking about what would it feel like to have your principal say that almost every day. That's just something to think about that we're going to dig into the rest of today. But the point here is we need messy collaborative learning also. I think it pulls right out of our panel of if we want things to be different for kids, we have to do our jobs differently. We have to figure out how to have hard conversations together and experiment together and not agree together. And that's going to be kind of what we're playing with today, okay? For those of you who maybe don't know me, I do like to just say the lenses I bring to my work. And you might want to think as I talk through these briefly, what lenses do you bring to the table today? Because they all should be at the table. These are all parts of our identities. I really, at the core, think about myself as a learner and a designer, as a collaborator. I love puzzling through things, figuring out how to make things work better, figuring out what we need to stop doing to make schools better places for kids and grown-ups. I am also a researcher. I was a 5th grade teacher, and I did a lot of leadership coaching after that also. And core also, as I think about Michigan schools, is I'm a parent. My son's starting 1st grade in a couple weeks. And so I'm constantly thinking about it from that perspective also. So just think for a second which perspectives you're bringing, because they all really matter to this conversation in terms of how we want our schools to be for ourselves, our kids, and our educators. Here's what we're going to think about today. And when I say today, it's the whole day. So we're going to do a little bit now. You're going to think about different slices of it in breakouts, and then we're going to come back and think again together in the afternoon. Here's what we're going to do this morning. I'm first actually going to have you put on a learner hat. And I'm just going to preface, it might feel a little uncomfortable. I want you to lean into it, see what it feels like. We're going to experience, oh, I should not walk there. We're going to experience a professional learning activity. And then we're going to take off our those hats and put on our facilitator hat and think about how is that facilitated, what moves did I make, things like that. But for the first 20 or so minutes, I want you to really sit in. You might even pretend you're a teacher if that helps you. Sit in what does this feel like as a teacher. Really let yourself sit into that, okay? So here's what we're going to do. This is you maybe have done some kind of cycle like this in professional learning. I'm going to introduce something. We're going to plan it. You're going to have a chance to plan. And then we're actually going to practice enacting it at our tables. And then we're going to debrief. Okay? So it's a pretty common structure. I want to just put this note here. This is to demonstrate some things. We're going to experience some things through this demonstration. So I want to just note that it's a little contrived, it's a little exaggerated, it's maybe a little shorter than we would have in real life. That's on purpose, but hopefully it'll feel really recognizable, actually, some of the things that we're doing. But I just want to emphasize this is not necessarily me saying this is the way to do it. We'll get more into that in a little bit. Okay, so here's the instructional activity we're going to do. It's called Quick Images. Does everyone have their learner hats on? You're a teacher now? Okay. And the practice we're going to really work on is how to engage children in the reasoning of others. All right, so...
okay, so I'm going to...
Okay, so in a moment, I'm going to show you just a quick 2-minute video of a teacher educator that I actually used to work with at University of Washington, also named Alison, doing it with a couple of teachers as kind of a little practice, just so you can get a sense of what the activity is like, and a little bit of what the role of the teacher is, and a little bit of how we think about students thinking in it. I want to again say, if I step out for a second, this is a really short video. It's not one I would use with teachers, really, but we don't have very much time today, okay? So imagine it's a little longer. Here we go.
Okay, so I'm going to show you an image. It's a piece of paper that has dots on it, and your job is to figure out how many dots do you see and how did you see them.
20.
You said 20? How many did you see, Kiana? 20 also? Okay, so you both agree it's 20? Okay, so let's take a look at it and let's hear your thinking about how you saw the 20.
Well, I saw there were 4 clumps of dots. And
Okay.
I counted how many were in one clump.
Okay, so let me see if I can show your thinking. So you saw there was 4 clumps.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to show Katie's thinking in purple. So here are the 4 clumps that you saw. And then after you knew there was 4 clumps, what did you do?
I counted how many dots were in one clump.
So do you think you counted by ones, or do you think you recognized
I
that
recognized
5?
it was
Yes.
5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kiara, did you recognize that 5 also?
I recognized them the first time, and then
Yes.
the second time, since I had the chance to actually count them,
Yes.
I counted them to make sure.
You counted them to make sure? Can you point to them and show us what you did when you counted them? Okay. So I'm going to try to label your thinking on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You confirmed that the second time. How did you know how many there were all together then?
Well, once I realized that one clump had 5 in them, I just times
Yes.
it by 4.
You did? Okay. So you recognized that this had 5 and you saw that there were 4 of them. So you thought about 4 groups of 5.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew that was 20.
Yeah.
Okay. Young children count by ones, and so we want opportunities to nudge them beyond counting everything by ones. So when you show something to a child for a short amount of time, they know there's not going to be enough time to count 20 things by one, so it pushes them to see things in groups. And we want children to begin to see things in groups, such as 4s and 5s. How was that for you?
Fun.
How was that?
And how are you feeling as a mathematician?
I feel confident as a mathematician.
Okay, so that hopefully gave you a sense of the basic structure. Okay, we tell children, we're going to show you an image quickly. I want you to think about how many there are and how you saw them. We show them, often it's kind of 2 times, maybe you want to do more, but it's quick for like 3 seconds. And then that was abbreviated, but then we have a discussion about how did you see it, how many are there, and how did you see it? All right, so we're going to use this activity as a way to practice engaging in the children in the reasoning of others. So not just each kid shares their idea, but how can we get kids to engage in each other's ideas? So here's some best practices for that. We can ask kids to explain other kids' thinking. You saw Alison recording their thinking, right? That gave other kids access. We can pause kids to invite another kid to predict what they did next. You could also ask students to compare, okay? So these are some best practices that you might want to try today. So what we're going to have a moment to do now is, on your own, you're going to do a little bit of planning, because in a moment, one of you is going to try modeling this for your table. So we want everyone to be prepared to be that person to model it and try it out for everybody, okay? So I'm going to give you about 2 or 3 minutes right now to think, what might I try? How might I facilitate that discussion to engage each other, or kids in each other's reasoning, and just to help you understand what it's going to look like? Some of your table mates will be pretending to be kids, okay? So we're going to model this for each other so we can get a sense of what this activity looks like and try to practice some of these best practices. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes right now to think by yourself. How might you do this? If it's you modeling it, what might you do? If you want to jot some ideas down, you can. If you want to, there's copies of the quick image on your table. We're going to use the same one she did. If you want to kind of think about how might I represent kids thinking. I'm going to take a minute or 2 just to plan on your own. And I hear you starting to talk to each other. I really want to make sure we give ourselves some quiet think time. All right, I'm going to call you back. Interesting to notice how hard it was to work on that by yourself. That's all I'm going to say right now. Just interesting, okay? Here's how we're going to enact it. So in a moment, one person, and I'll say how we're going to choose that in a minute, they're going to model the activity as the teacher for the rest of the table. So just like we saw in the video, flash the image twice and then facilitate a conversation with the right side of the table, my right. So if you're on this side of the table, you're going to pretend to be children. So you're going to have some strategies that you share. And if you're on the left side, your job is to observe and take notes about how children are engaging with each other's reasoning. All right, I just want to do a gut check now. Will you show me fist to 5 how excited you are to be the one to model? 5 is, I really hope it's me. Fist is, please, please, no. Okay. All right. So, I'm going to bring you back. We're going to have lots of time to process this. I love that you're already having thoughts you want to share with each other. Here's how we're lucky, because for this modeling, we actually have people who were thinking a little bit of some of these practices yesterday. So raise your hand if you were here yesterday. Okay. Keep your hand up at your table if you're sitting closest to me. Okay. We are so grateful to have you here to model this practice for us. So I know you have a lot to say. Let's stay in our learner hats here, okay? Stay in our learner hats, but do notice how this is feeling, okay? The great thing is the person that just volunteered to model this lesson for us was here yesterday, so they already learned a lot about engaging kids with each other's reasoning, so they'll really be able to model it for us, and so we'll be able to see what it looks like. The other thing I just wanted to tell you is that we're lucky to have some experts in the room. So Deborah, Maisie, and Amy will be walking around. If you're not sure what the right way is, you can raise your hand and they might be able to help you with some next steps you could take. All right? So here's our modeling or our enactment plan. We're gonna take about 5 to 7 minutes to really, and I want to really encourage you, do not lift out of the experience. Try to really do it, okay? So the person who's our volunteer is going to model it. If you're on the right side of the table, be a kid. If you're on the left side of the table, take notes. What are you noticing about how kids are engaging in each other's reasoning? All right, let's really try to stay in it and give it a try and see how it feels. Go. All right. We're going to get another moment to talk, so if you could just pause for just a moment. I love how much you have to say about this. In a moment, we'll dive in. Here's how we're going to, oh, I totally skipped that. All right. Forgot that step. We're going to move on. So here's how we're going to debrief. Note takers, your job was to really notice what was happening. So we're going to start with you talking about what did you notice, and were children engaging and others reasoning. Then teacher, you can start talking about what moves you tried. And then children, you should also chime in with what you experienced and what you noticed. And again, we're really trying to focus on how do we engage kids in each other's reasoning. All right? Go ahead. As I would expect.
Oh, your mic's on.
That's awkward.
Okay, what did we notice? We noticed that you guys are horrible children because you.
All right, I'm going to pause you. Okay. So now I want, and this actually, I really want you to be silent for a minute and just be with your own thoughts. I know it's hard. Grab a notebook. We're going to refer to these notes later. So make sure you write it down somewhere you can find it. And we're just going to take 2 minutes, write whatever is coming to mind for you. So how did that feel as a learner? Maybe different parts felt different ways. How did it feel to collaborate? What, if anything, do you feel like you learned about engaging children in each other's reasoning? And then sit with, like, if I were to say, now we're going to do the same activity exactly the same way again, would you want to do it? Would you want to be the one to volunteer next time? Anything that's coming to mind right now, just kind of capture what that felt like. And really, let's just be silent. And we are going to come back to these later, so please make sure you're writing it down somewhere. Okay, so that was our learner hat. I'll just make an observation. It's hard to stay in the learner hat. That's an observation I saw. Let's lift up now, and we can take those hats off now, and let's reflect on what that was, okay? So here's what we just did. We just did a pretty typical set of professional learning activities, actually, right? We learned about an activity. I showed you an example. I gave you information about best practices. We practiced planning for it. Then you got to either try teaching it or observe someone teaching it. Then we discussed and reflected, right? That's a pretty common set of activities that we might go through. And in some ways, some of these things, like actually practicing and trying something, that's in a lot of places pretty innovative and different even for what we have teachers do. But here's the thing, how I do it matters. There are a lot of ways to do these activities, and that's what we're going to dig into today. What are the tiny little moves we make that either help people really learn and work together in a really powerful way, or make it feel really scary? Think about your fists. There's a lot of fists in the air of, please don't call on me, right? So this is what we're going to dig into today. And it's connected. I really see all of our work as connected to value 5 in the organizational practices. If we want something different for kids, this was in our panel earlier this morning, we have to do something different. We have to learn in new ways, okay? So if powerful learning for children, if we want children's learning to be different, if we want them to be thriving, if we want them to be in joyful classrooms, if we want their instruction to be based on their wisdom and brilliance, then we actually have to have educator learning look really different too. And that, I'm going to emphasize, is for teachers and leaders. So this is a quote Rusty put up yesterday. And I know we have our literacy friends here. I think you can change math in that last couple words to literacy. I think it's the same. Here's what I want us to think about today. Teachers need this too. We all actually need this. We all need places where we can really think and try and fail and revise our thinking and try again. But raise your hand if that was what it was like when you were a teacher. So is everyone looking around the room right now? There's not a single hand in the air. If we want that to change for teachers, then we have to really disrupt some of our practices of leadership. Some of the ways we've always facilitated teacher learning, some of the ways we set up our school systems, some of the ways we set up our leadership roles, we have to really change those. And that's what we're going to be thinking about today. So here's what I want you to dig into just a little bit, just to kind of build this out a little bit in terms of what it means as a leader to engage teachers in being in spaces where they can think and fail and try again and experiment and be messy. So go ahead and take out your book, Learning Together. If you don't have one, I'm told there's some at the desk over there. And we're just going to look at the one little paragraph on page 36. One of the principles for the adult learning context, and it's that everyone has to take a learner stance. So what I want you to do is read it, and will you underline a word or phrase, and this is key, that is most different from what you experienced as an educator or experience now as an educator? What stands out to you as most different in that paragraph? And when you feel ready, there's a QR code for a Slido on the screen. The question is a little small up there, but it'll show up on your phone. I want you to write in the word or phrase that stands out to you as most different from what you experienced as a teacher. So the top 4 or 5 here, right? Flattening the power structure, not having it be that certain people have more expertise or knowledge that they then control everyone else with, or certain people have to be messy and other people never have to be messy, right? Certain people get to avoid any risk and other people have to take the risks. This sense of being, this vulnerability, being willing to be vulnerable, seeking collective solutions, shared responsibility, the sense of togetherness, right? I was thinking about this when Deborah was talking about how individualistic our society is, and that's the way teaching is too. And if, in my experience, that was really lonely. So, what we want to dive into today is how can we design systems in our state that support all educators, and I mean all educators no matter your role, to engage in this messy collaborative experimentation? How can we do that? So that, and this actually, the part in the bottom right is actually really part of this too, I think. That we want everyone to see themselves as flexible problem solvers and collaborative learners. That's a really powerful way to show up rather than I have to pretend I have it all together and I never make mistakes and I know what I'm doing. Okay? That doesn't feel good to anybody. So I want to just name that this connects to our principles for teacher learning. And that especially number 4, there is value in making teaching public. We have to be able to be in the messiness of teaching together for us to figure out other ways of teaching. We have to be in the messiness of leadership together, is another piece we'll talk about today, for us to learn new ways of leading. Okay? So here's what I want you to discuss in your tables, and we're actually going to generate a collective resource today. Over the whole day, we're going to keep coming back to this Google Doc that after today I'll clean up and I'll send back out to you all so you have it. We have a lot of wisdom about what keeps us from wanting to be messy together and what supports us to be messy together. We're going to learn some more things today, but I want to just emphasize, you've experienced it. So we're going to try to capture that all today so that we can take it with us into our context, okay? So the key thing here is Google Docs only lets less than 100 people be in the document at the same time. So not everyone can be in, but at least one person at your table is going to be your note taker. And here's the 3 things I want you to think about. You'll see there's a table with 3 columns. And we're going to focus first on just what gets in the way, okay? So please write down all the things that I said that made you feel like, I don't want to be messy. I don't want to be the one to volunteer. Really think about, what did I say? I was trying to model it. Some of the things we do that shut down the collaborative experimentation. I want you to then think about, what else could I have done? You probably have examples of people you've seen facilitate things that really quickly shut down any sense you could be messy, right? Imagine what else I could have done. And then also we can live into the space of, what do our schools and our systems around us do that push us into these cultures where we feel like we have to be really put together and have it all together and know what we're doing and never be messy and never admit that something was hard. All right, so this is the space we're going to live in. Again, we're going to keep coming back to this, so we're just going to start to dive in today. And this morning we're focusing on what gets in the way. Oh, Amy.
I just wanted to say, you said what did Alison do, but we're also doing our best to make it difficult to engage in a collaborative learning
Great.
environment. So you might also want to implicate other people.
Yes. Yes, thank you. That was a wrinkle I added this morning, so it didn't make it in the slides, okay? I added in, so here's your first thing you can write in, I added in that our experts would walk around and help you with the right way to do it. So even just think about the way I said it, right? All right, go for it. important connection, right? We do it to kids too. We make classrooms feel like they can be messy and experiment and revise their thinking. And we position certain people as experts or more powerful or having the right way that everyone has to have too.
What a, yeah, I think what the big question on here that you can't see is what gets in the way from adults doing that kind of work together.
You are
So
so
time.
yeah, two tabs, and it looks like people didn't think of what phosphorus. So I'll go fix it right now. You got it. You pulled up the tiny wrong tab, so they're typing in the phosphorus folder. No one seems to have noticed, but I'm just gonna fix it. I can do it really quickly. That's so funny. What? I think it's okay right now, and then I said we can like scroll through.
Yeah. So what I think that's the thing. What makes that risky? Like we tell teachers to go watch another teacher. We tell teachers to record themselves. What makes that risky for us in this context? Like I wrote perfectionism. Like we have a culture of perfectionism where we can't do something wrong.
I need to be at 5 after, right? Okay.
Yeah.
8 would be fine. Yeah. I was like,
So
he put the tiny row onto the wrong part.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Right.
now it's.
So Rich, you said we feel like we always need to be in performance. I'm
Wait,
trying to
people are typing in both. Oh shoot. Okay. All right. Well. It's okay. Yes. Yes. We can just. I sure am. What we'll do is just paste it all together afterwards. Okay. Do you think it'd be nice to lift something out now? Okay.
how do I capture that? Like it's almost a microculture of I don't know if that's the right way to I'll just write those things.
All right. I'm gonna pause you. So first, thanks to those of you who noticed that it took you to the wrong place with the wrong questions. I think what we ended up doing is writing things that impede in both tabs, which is totally fine. We'll condense it all, but the questions were in the wrong place. So thanks for those being messy with me. Okay. I would love, message maker friends, if we could just scan across in a little more zoomed in way. And then I'm gonna ask for three ideas to be put into the room about what really surfaced for you. But let's take a look at our collective thinking here. Okay. So let's hear some ideas here. We'll keep scrolling too, but I would love to put some ideas. What came up in your tables or what really struck you? We have microphones somewhere.
I probably won't need it.
Oh.
Amy stopped by while we were working and asked our teacher to provide remind us what the objective of the lesson was. She didn't think it was clear enough. And if that was funny in itself, Kelly, our 4th grade teacher, said that's exactly what administrators do when they come in the room. So Amy, you score 1,000 points for that, right?
I cast her in that role this morning, so she thought on her feet quickly. All right, something else, yeah.
So we talked about, can you hear me? We talked about at our table that we received the same image that was in the video. So really we were just mimicking what was happening in the video. And that might not help kids later try to do it a different way.
I was thinking about what a difference it makes depending on the safety and longevity that you have with the group, and how different people in the group could experience different levels of safety and longevity. But arguably, a lot of what's up there would be just fine or okay for a group who knows each other well and has a high level of trust. Whereas when you're working with people who, I was in the teacher role and had to ask someone their name, and that was uncomfortable, right? And so it was fine. They were wonderful about it, but what a difference in safety, trust, and knowledge of each other. Side note too, I'm reflecting, because I was a past principal and I'm a director now, on how I did not love having my picture taken immediately as we were getting started. And I think that's just a community thing, but that shows how different people experience some of the things that you mean to do very respectfully, or like, wow, let's celebrate this great learning today. That was interesting reflection for me to have that happen in this seat today.
This point around it matters who the people are in their relationship. That's going to be a big part of this afternoon. So thank you for bringing it up. It's crucial. Yeah.
Something that we talked about, but also I'm noticing on the sheet is you identified that there are experts, so it felt like we could do this the wrong way. That was huge at our table. But also it makes me reflect on, as a mom, as a teacher, as a professional development facilitator, how often we get like, well, what's the answer, right? Like, it's not just this exploration task, but like, especially with my own child, but that's another story. But just thinking about even the teachers I work with, like, doing activities, they want to know what's the right answer, where is it? I'm like, I didn't provide it for you because there isn't a right answer. There was one activity I did that I'm just thinking about, but having that mentality that we need to shift to as learners and teachers.
Yes. So for time, we're going to pause there. This is going to be the conversation the rest of the day, though. So if you have other thoughts, don't lose them. To this point, though, it came up at the table back there that I was talking to about how we do the same thing with kids. We do some of the same exact moves in classrooms that totally shut down a sense of I can take a risk and share a half-baked idea or experiment with a new strategy. Some of the almost same exact moves, right? Like, oh, you're done? You're an expert then. Go help everybody else. Okay, so this again is a system-wide thing at every layer of how we think about learning. And we're starting to play with it in terms of how we think about kids learning. And what we're thinking about today is what does that mean we have to change about grown-up learning? All right? So, maybe. There we go. This afternoon, we're going to come back and we're going to try another version of what we just did. You might already be guessing I might be trying to model something different then. And what we're also going to do is try to bring together everything we learned from breakouts. So in a moment, you're going to go out into different breakout groups. And then we're going to come back and try to bring all of that wisdom together so that we all are having access to those ideas, okay? Don't start moving yet, though. Here's what I want you to make sure you're thinking about as you go into your breakouts. The breakouts all connect to these questions in different ways because there's many different layers of our system that we have to think about in order to do this. So we're going to come back and think about this idea of what practices and systems impede, what practices and systems have the potential to foster, okay? So notice what comes up for you with those questions, and we'll see you this afternoon. Trish is going to take you to the next thing.
Thank you, Alison. You offered a really nice opportunity for us to reflect on our own practice as leaders and think about ways that we promote collaborative experimentation in our context. I don't know about you as leaders, but I felt deeply the ways in which Alison was promoting that collective experimentation. I've done something super similar for years in the ISD that I work for, and have learned a lot over the years by thinking hard about the ways that we position educators, and promoting this opportunity for people to get messy is incredibly important. If we want something, I think the message here is if we want something different for our children, then we really have to, as leaders, look in the mirror and do something different as well, right? What we're doing for our kids right now is not working. So it's us, we need to look in the mirror and change the ways that we are practicing so that we can support the educators who are supporting the kids.